And welcome to today's Google Apps for Education Professional Development webinar. Thank you for joining us. Today's webinar topic is an introduction to Spreadsheets in Google Docs by John and Derrick, who are both Google Apps for Education certified trainers. We're going to go ahead and get started, but I just wanted to let you know a couple things. First, if you have questions throughout the presentation, you can ask them in the Q&A box. I'll reply, or I will save your question for the end. Derrick and John will leave about 10 minutes towards the end to open to questions that you might have from their presentation or anything else that you might have about the spreadsheet. So if you have a question, please ask it in the Q&A box. This webinar is being recorded, so you'll receive a link to this recorded YouTube archive, as well as John and Derrick's resources and the Q&A transcript in an email later this week. So again, this webinar is being archived, and you'll be able to view it later, forward it on to anybody else who you think might be interested. So I'm going to give the presentation privileges over to Derrick, so he's going to get started.
Hi, everyone. Let me get my window up and sharing over here. Give me 1 second. Dana, can you see my presentation up right now?
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. As Dana introduced the webinar for today, I just wanted to go ahead and just do a quick overview of myself. Unlike John, I am not in the classroom on a daily basis. I actually provide technology support and training to staff and students on Main South High School in Park Ridge, Illinois on a daily basis. I do during the day, and at nighttime I actually manage a technology consulting training service company called FireLogic out of Park Ridge as well. And you can visit my website, firelogic.net, for more information on my company. I also do a lot of Google Apps assistance for not only the members and students at my school, but I'm also assisting local businesses and getting them up and running with Google Apps for their systems and that sort of thing. And on top of being a Google Apps certified trainer, I also have multiple certifications from Microsoft and CompTIA in the technical realm. In place, what I'm going to be going over today is just a simple overview. John's going to be handling more of the centric portion of the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and focus on more of the introductory level items, such as the basic menu options, some of the functionality in spreadsheets, do printing, exporting features, how to go ahead and share spreadsheets, which is one of the greatest functions that we have in the Google Spreadsheets product. We compare it to like Microsoft Excel, which is able to share documents with people on the fly and collaborate on things. So I'm going to go ahead and show everyone how functionality works as well. Just slide here on what is Google Docs. I know many of you are probably new users to the Google Docs service, and while we will be focusing on the Spreadsheets product tonight, we want everyone to hopefully go ahead and take a look at the other products that are offered in the Google Docs realm. And it's kind of interesting because a lot always get confused, especially at my high school. You know, they say, well, Google Docs, and you know, we tell them about presentations and forms, which is part of Docs, and they get confused sometimes. So just to make it clear to all the users, Google Docs is the name that brands all the different sub-applications that I have up on the slide. So that includes Docs, presentations, forms, and also spreadsheets. So it can be confusing sometimes when someone says, share the Google Doc with you. That could be a spreadsheet, it could be a document, could be a presentation. So the terms are used interchangeably, very loosely, but just know that differentiation exists. First things that you want to go ahead and know when starting to use the Google Spreadsheets product is that there are two different realms of accessing spreadsheets. And if you are my audience here is primarily teachers and educators here today. The different ways that you can access the Spreadsheet product. One of them is by just using your personal Google account. If you have a Gmail account already, you already have access to Google Spreadsheets and in turn Google Docs. Logged into your actual Gmail account or Google account. Screen showing right now?
Seeing your Google Docs list right now.
Okay, wonderful. When your actual Google account, it's very easy to go ahead and access Google Docs. Most likely you'll be in your Gmail portion of your Google account, which is the most used product in this suite. But if you go ahead and click on Documents, you'll have access to the actual Google Docs portion. And this is the area to access Google Spreadsheets from your personal account. Likewise, if you had a service provided to you by your school district, which we have at District 207, you would have a link that you would use for that. So, for example, our link to get into our service is at main207.org, and this would vary depending on what organization you are a part of and what kind of setup they have. But if you wanted to go ahead and collaborate with your spreadsheets, everyone at your school district, you would have to use that link to go ahead and access it. And you can go ahead and share things between your personal and your work account, but I like to tell people if you're using spreadsheets for work, you want to try to go ahead and create those spreadsheets from your work account. Personal things, keep them in your personal account, just to keep a little bit of separation and keep everything organized for yourself. Another way that you can access spreadsheets is from email invites. Someone goes ahead and shares, and we'll go over this a little bit later. When someone shares a spreadsheet with you, most of the time they will send out an email invite that will come along with that, the access that you've been given, and right within that link, the link within that email that you can use, go ahead and access that particular spreadsheet. That's the first things I'm going to go through. I'm actually going to go ahead and give everyone some live demos. We can sit through presentation slides all day, but I think getting your hands on and showing you how to actually use the product is the best way to go and get familiar with how Spreadsheets works. Some of the first things I'm going to go over in terms of basic things, basic menu options that you'll be presented with in Spreadsheets, which includes freezing of panes, how to go ahead and add rows and columns, make a new spreadsheet first off, seeing some data which you may have in your spreadsheets, and also creating multiple sheets within a workbook. All functionalities that we probably know how to do in Microsoft Excel, but moving into the Google Suites realm, it's a little bit different. So I didn't show everyone how to, first off, just create a basic, simple spreadsheet here. So I'm going to go into my Google Docs main interface here, and this way to create a new spreadsheet is just by going over here, and on the left-hand side, you'll create new button here, and if we click on that, we'll get an option to create any of the different kind of Google Docs that are available in the suite. Worksheets today, so I'm going to go ahead and choose Create New Spreadsheet. So here I have a brand new spreadsheet, and you'll see that the entire interface for the spreadsheet is fully within the browser. The options that you have in Google Docs or in Google Spreadsheets in particular are a lot simpler, and you don't have as much breadth as you may be used to in Microsoft Excel. And see on the upper left-hand area of the spreadsheet, you have your simple different file commands for file edit, view, insert, format, form, which is a little bit of what John's going to go into a little bit later, a tool menu, and then you have a simple tool right below it that's some simple functionalities, reverting changes, a print button, some of the common things like changing your text size, bolding, strike through, different options, availability of putting different borders for yourself, quick auto sum, and a few of the different other functions that are that's useful. You see something in the toolbar here in Google Spreadsheets. Don't be alarmed because it's probably in one of the other menus above. It says that they didn't clutter this toolbar. They made it very nice and easy, so both new users can jump right in and start using this, and you don't have to be daunted with a very advanced interface with a lot of different buttons like Excel has. And a question that comes up sometimes, I've been asked this at work, so I will bring it up. The limitations on size in spreadsheets is a little less than what Excel gives you. We have a limitation of 400,000 cells, 256 columns per sheet, and to 99 sheets per workbook. Those are figures pulled off of the Google websites, and I clear them with data as well. Those are changing because they're always adding, increasing that size limitation on Google Spreadsheets, but just an FYI, I wanted to let everyone know about that. One of the first things you want to go ahead and do once you create your new spreadsheet is go ahead and give yourself a name. Two ways to go ahead and set a name for your spreadsheet. First is go ahead and use this little quick title bar here. Every new spreadsheet is going to have the name Unsaved Spreadsheet on it. If you just left-click into this area, you can go ahead and set a name. So I'm going to just call this Spreadsheet and click OK. And that name, and once you'll see on the right-hand side of my screen, it's saved seconds ago, and I'll go over that in just a moment. That's the auto-save feature, which is very nice in the entire Google Docs suite. Another way to change that name is right through the File menu, and you can use the rename function. Auto-save is one of the other great features of Google Spreadsheets, and that's also present in the other part of the Docs suite. Auto-save functionality works about every 5 seconds or so after any changes are made. So unlike an Excel document, a very common problem we have at our school district, people are working on Word documents or Excel documents, and they go, there's a system crash, or they accidentally close out of the program Microsoft Excel and lose a lot of data. Not happen as much in Google Spreadsheets, and that's because, like I said, this auto-save feature checks to see when you've created edits or just to your spreadsheet, and go ahead and apply them right away, auto-save for you. One to note is the built-in spell check feature, built in right into the Google Spreadsheets. And go ahead and check any word that's put into a cell by typing in anything. If you have any kind of piece of information in there, any word, click on it. And go ahead, if there was a common word or at least close spelling, it would go ahead and give me an option to go ahead and change that spelling on the fly. You can also go to the Tools menu and spelling to do a full spell check on a spreadsheet. What we'll go over is adding rows and columns. Know how to do this within their full Excel, and it's a little bit different in Google Docs. I believe it's also easier. And for the rest of this part of my demonstration, I'm going to move into a live spreadsheet that I actually did earlier, which I used to start explaining some of the other functions. Just so everyone knows, this is some data I pulled off the U.S. Census Bureau, I believe, about state-by-state education attainment from 2008, percentages listed by state. We can add a row or a column. The easy way to do so is to go ahead and click on the actual type, first cell in the row or the column. We want to go ahead and create that new row or column. For example, if I wanted to create another row right between California and Colorado here, I could simply go ahead and right-click on my rate, and I'll be here to insert one above or one below, and that's basically just one row above or one row below. Likewise, if I wanted to go ahead and insert a column, I can on column C, for example, and insert one to the left, one to the right. And that functionality exists if you have to go into your menu, have the option to go ahead and insert column or to the right, row above, row below. As far as I know a lot of people ask me this at the school district, but there's no known keyboard shortcut for inserting sheets. Inserting rows or columns, and if incorrect, I can correct that later, or maybe Dana could put that into the chat for everyone. Setting up panes is another common functionality which I'd like to do, and which actually would apply to this particular spreadsheet that I have here. As you can see, I have a which is common in a lot of sheets you may have in an Excel. And for example, since my spreadsheet is so long that I couldn't see what the actual titles are for the different columns here in this spreadsheet, if I wanted to freeze, say, perhaps that first row of data, I could go ahead and go into the Tools menu here, rows, and freeze from the row option. That would go ahead and duplicate the functionality you may be used to in Excel, where first row frozen, and be able to view all data in my spreadsheet with those titles from the first header row. If I want to do it on the first two rows, I could just do it on the fly and do free rows, and now I can get my for education attainment for the USA as a whole for each level. I do the same for columns. If I want to say freeze the state column, which I probably wouldn't want to do, but just as an example, I could say freeze one column. Should be all frozen there on the side. I really have to take off frozen rows there. An important function that we have in Google Spreadsheets is sorting. I want to remember that before you want to go ahead and do a sort in a spreadsheet, you go ahead and highlight the particular data that will be sorted. This example, if I wanted to go ahead and sort this list of states, keep all my values intact for each state, I could go ahead and select, starting with my first state, to my final state, and now I can go ahead and set up a sort for myself. I'm going to go ahead and show a simple sort, like to the Tools menu, and go into the sort here. You can do simple sorts by using the quick little shortcuts that they have right in the Tools menu, where you can sort the sheet or sort your range by column A to Z. But that functionality is not as good. Well, not if you want to go ahead and information that has a lot of numbers in it. So I'll go ahead and go right into the full sort menu. I'm going to say I'm going to sort by column A, and I have to go instead A. Do that. My a spreadsheet full of information will flip upside down. Now Wyoming is at the top, and everything goes down alphabetically from the end of the alphabet. If I want to go ahead and sort by the same column, or actually sort by, in terms of what's the highest number of high school graduates, I do a very similar function. Go to Tools, and on my column B, which is my school graduation or higher column, and I want to sort that from highest to lowest. Like that. Now I can see which state, for example, in this sample spreadsheet, which states have the highest high school graduation rates, highest to lowest. So sorting functionality, you can get very advanced in your sorts, just like you can in Excel. Some functionality may not be there, and that's one of the things you have to be. You have to work with your Google spreadsheet sometimes, and if there's a sort that you cannot do or functionality you cannot do, you can always feel free to pull that information back into Excel, do a sort if it's a little too advanced, and move that back into spreadsheets. And I'll show how to go ahead and export some things in just a little bit.
Derrick, would you mind showing, if you freeze, for example, the top row, you can actually select within the column to sort by that column, just to show another quick way to sort. So if you freeze your top row,
to sort the first by the first column.
If you click that little, if you click the down arrow within that column, actually you don't even have to go to the tools menu. If you go down there, you can actually do sort sheet like that, and it'll keep that first top row frozen, so it's a little bit easier. So it'll go sort your whole sheet like that.
Okay, wonderful. Yep. So we'll do Z to A, and there we go. Change on the fly. So an even easier way. Thank you, Dana, for showing that. That is another useful feature within spreadsheets. So if you wanted to go ahead and say create multiple sheets within your workbook, another confusing part of both Excel and spreadsheets is that what we have right now is we have technically a workbook. So we're working in one sheet within a workbook. If we go ahead and create multiple sheets within this particular workbook, this big spreadsheet I'm working in right now, I go ahead and the little plus sign here and add a second sheet into my workbook. And this is useful when you're working on, for example, in science. I see, science teachers doing this a lot. You have experiments that have different parts of the experiment or different sets of data. You can go ahead, and you're probably familiar with, adding in different pieces of data in different sheets here. And a feature is if I wanted to go ahead and set a proper name for each of my different sheets here, I can just go ahead and I'll show everyone. I'll zoom in here. Go click on the little arrow, neither sheet name, yet, and rename that particular sheet. So I want to rename this one. I'll just call this one States. Type it, press OK. And I have to name my second sheet something else. For country. And have, as I said earlier, up to 99 different sheets in your over here that you can change between. It might slow a little bit if you get that many sheets full of data, but I just wanted to let you know that possibility is there. One other nice functionality that is within Google Spreadsheets is that you can go ahead and duplicate any of these sheets within the same workbook for yourself. So I wanted to go ahead and duplicate this particular sheet here. I can use arrow and select duplicate and have a little sheet called copy of states, which would be a carbon copy of that first sheet for myself. And I can do it for any of the different sheets that I would have created. You can go ahead, and if you needed to use this as a template for some further work you were doing within this workbook, that would be a good starting point for yourself. We're going to move here. I'm going to move on to the last portion of what I am covering, which is printing and exporting. Let me go to my slide over here. A few of the things that I'm to are live demos of what are permissions within Google Spreadsheets and how they work, how you go ahead and publish your particular spreadsheet to the web, and there's a few different things you can do with publishing, which is very neat and only that isn't present in Microsoft Excel, and also in history, how that works and how you can go back to your first edit and see how the document looked, 100 changes back or 200 changes back. So prints is a particular feature. Actually, all Google Docs, I should correct myself. Permissions are available for different for any spreadsheet you're working on. Always go ahead and view what kind of are set on a particular spreadsheet by looking in this area right here. Now you'll see that this spreadsheet right now has a lock on it that this is private to only me. That means that I've created it, I'm the owner, and I'm the only person that can edit or view this particular spreadsheet right now. And if I went and clicked on this, it would go show me what sharing settings are. Two different things that encompass how you share documents and how you can collaborate with them on spreadsheets with other people on the internet. It is sharing and viewing settings. And sharing settings are primarily divided into three different levels. The first level is owner. And owner is primarily always, if you created the spreadsheet, you are the owner. You can transfer the ownership to somebody else if you'd like, but generally, if you make a sheet, you are the owner, you can always view it, and you can always edit it. There's also a level of sharing called editors. So if I wanted to share this with someone, so I wanted to share this with John, and I wanted to make him enter on this, I can go and add him right underneath here where it says add people. I would his email address and set his sheet to can edit. So what he's going to be able to do, and specifically just John, is he can go ahead and both view the spreadsheet once I send the invite, and so he can kind of edit as he'd like sheet, which means that he can also share this out with other people at his will. And first, the final option right here, if I just wanted John just to be able to view the spreadsheet, he would be able to take it online, but he would not be able to make any edits, and he would not be able to share this with anybody else. So those are the three different levels of sharing that are within Google Spreadsheets. We had and set in tune and set any kind of anyone that you wanted to go ahead and share the spreadsheet with, and I can do the same thing if I want to share it with Dana as well. You can multiple different people and share this out at the same time with them. And if I want to add a little personal message here, I could type in right at the bottom. And by default, Google Spreadsheets always wants to go ahead and send out an email invite. You can turn that off. I generally tell people to use that. It lets the other person know that now they have access to that document. Just gives them a quick link to get into that spreadsheet that you shared out. Show everyone part of that, which is visibility settings. And visibility settings are what control if you are going to go ahead and share this on the web, say as an embedded spreadsheet on a Google site, which a lot of teachers love doing. They go ahead and create a spreadsheet perhaps for science or social science and embed that into a site. Well, visibility settings are what come into play that goes ahead and sets up who can view that and what kind of access rights they have. And I'm going to go ahead and log in here. A down button over here on the right. And I'm going to go ahead and this out on the web. We have options here. One of the first options that we have is that we could go ahead and share all the sheets within this particular workbook. This is a nice functionality to have. So say you wanted to go ahead and only share sheet 2 out of this workbook instead of sharing everything because perhaps there was some information that wasn't necessary for people in the other sheets. You can go ahead and select perhaps just my country sheet that I want to share on the only instead of the entire workbook. So I would select that as an option. And I can go ahead and then select this little option to automatically republish when changes are made. If I wanted to only have a static copy of this viewable on the web, in that any future changes I would make after today would not be viewable, I would uncheck that option. The time when we're sharing in these documents on the web, go ahead and leave that checked. It's very nice because that is one of the powerful functions of spreadsheets, which allows everyone to go ahead and view the updated copy. And particularly for teachers, a lot of our teachers in District 207 are using Google Sites these days and are sharing embedded documents and spreadsheets with students, and they want to go ahead and have information updated on the fly. They usually leave this option turned on, so when kids log into their, the teacher's website at night, they can see the latest copy of that information. Go ahead and started publishing that right now. A few more options here at the bottom of this window, with the one being web page. This is given to us right here in this box. Is a link that we can go ahead and take, and you can go ahead and either link that off your Google site or any kind of website that you like. You can that link in an email. In general, that is a direct link to whichever option you set for sharing above. So if that was the only sheet you shared, that link would be a direct access link, so to say, over a spreadsheet. If I go ahead and change it, I could also go ahead and get another nice option called HTML to embed in a page, and this is what they call embed code. So if, for example, you had a Google site that you had for your students, you can go ahead and in a particular portion of your website, you can go ahead and copy this info, and this code will allow that spreadsheet to be within the page. So instead of students being taken to a whole new part on window on the web, when they your site, say on the home page, you wanted to put this in, your particular spreadsheet would be viewable within a window that you'd create, set the size and all that, and it would be viewable right there, so kids could view that on the fly, and you can keep their attention on your particular site without having them, like I said, browsing another portion of the web. One thing that I want to go over, which is another particularly useful portion of Google Spreadsheets, is what's called a revision history. And this is very similar to Excel's functionality in that Excel, you can go ahead and revert changes on the fly using a keystroke or using the undo command. This goes a step further. I'll show you actually this on the fly. I'll show you here as a live demo. Access revision history is simple. You just go into the File menu, see revision history, and what's going to happen is you're going to get a side-by-side. You're going to get your live on the left. On the right side, you're going to get a column that says revision history. And what is very useful about this is you can go ahead and see all the way back to just when you created your document, how it used to look, and all the different changes that have been made in between. And you can view the simple version of it right now, which I believe goes ahead and just let it revert back to what it considers our major changes, or we use this little button on the bottom right-hand corner to go and show more detailed revisions. And this would be a lot longer list of revisions that we had on this spreadsheet. Scroll down, as you can see, I was doing some work on the sheet before. If I scroll down, back to when I had my blank spreadsheet, and all the way I can go ahead and just view my different edits that I was adding here. You can see the work that I took to make this particular work, how it looks now, and different save points or revision points that you go back to. What's particularly nice about this is when Google Spreadsheets is used, for example, in the classroom. A lot of times teachers have students collaborating on spreadsheet together. So, for example, science, they're working on a science experiment, and they have a spreadsheet they're working on together, and the teacher can go in. If this spreadsheet was shared with her, she can go ahead and see all the different edits were done and what each student was putting into the document And it's also for the students as well. If they're doing a group project together and using spreadsheets in the classroom setting, and someone goes in and a group member maliciously removes some things, and the kids want to go back to what they had previously. Very simple. A revision history list is kept of all the different changes, and actually shows the user that made that particular change to go back and see all the different edits or changes that were made by John. For example, if he was working on this spreadsheet with me, I can see all the different things he did on this particular sheet with me. And this goes for the Google Docs for doing writing text, also for Google presentations. View all that different history right in the revision history column, and it's a very useful feature, especially for spreadsheets that are being worked on by multiple people. And the other thing is that revision history, if you're an editor of the document, you have editing access, you can go in and revert to someone else's changes. So say you didn't like something you did, and you think that the information that was put in, for example, by John one day ago was better, I can go ahead into my revision history, view information, and say, I'll revert to this point of the spreadsheet back to where it was when John worked on it. So there's some very neat functionality, very powerful functionality that is with Google Spreadsheets and the Google Docs Suite in terms of duration and going back to previous points in your spreadsheet. If anyone has any questions about the different things that I went over, you can feel free to please leave those questions towards the end of the actual demonstration. I'm going to actually be handing it over to John right now, and he's going to go into further how to go ahead and use this data, manipulate it, and make something meaningful out of it. So, Dana, I'm going to go ahead and pass the torch to John, and he can get started on the final part of our webinar.
I'm just going to switch the presentation over to you. And if you guys have questions throughout the webinar, you can ask them in the Q&A box, and that way everybody can see the question and the answer. We'll also be recording that Q&A transcript and posting it later on if you have questions to refer back to them. So, go ahead, John.
Hi. Nice to be with you this evening. My name is John Sowash, and I am a classroom teacher. I teach science, biology, anatomy and physiology, AP Bio, just outside of Detroit. And you can see a little info about myself. To have with you and invite you to participate in a live demo with me that kind of displays the collaborative power of spreadsheets. I can't say that I've ever done a live demo with this many people before, so it'll be interesting, but it'll be a good experience as well. So I'm going to pull up this slide here, and if you would type in that URL into your web browser, you don't need www or anything, just what you see on the screen. It will take you to a spreadsheet that I created in advance, just with some real basic questions like what's the weather where you're at, and what state are you from, things like that. If you wouldn't mind providing some data for me, that would be great. Then I'll go ahead and use that data and show you how to do some cool things with it. So leave it for just a couple more seconds, and I'm going to pop over into the spreadsheet and take a look at what's going on in there. The shared about the revision history is very good. As a classroom teacher, it has saved me many times. I threw that into the chat box. I had some issues of spreadsheet vandalism, and I was able to track down the people who are doing they weren't supposed to using the revision history. It was a very good lesson for them to realize that anything that they do is it's anonymous. They can be held accountable to whatever they're saying. So I'm going to bump into the spreadsheet and see what we're doing here. All right, there we go. Love colors. This is one of the coolest things that my students always comment on when we use this. This is the greatest wow factor. You get a whole bunch of students in here, and they have all the little boxes moving around, and they figure out which one's theirs. It's a lot of fun. So this is one of the first things that I do in my classes when I teach students how to use Google Docs is to open up Spreadsheets. They have a really fun M&M activity. I give every group, I do my lab groups, I give them all a bag of M&Ms, a mini bag of M&Ms, ask them to open it up, and then they count out the various colors and put that into the spreadsheet, and then we compare the color averages in the bag we have with the data that M has actually published about what percentage of a bag of M&Ms is, you know, blue or orange or brown. So that's a lot of fun. We'll give you a couple minutes, add yourself in, and then use this data to show you how to create charts and widgets. And I'm jealous of all of you who are able to post anything above mild as your weather, because I'm in Michigan and it is freezing cold and snowy and wet and muddy and just all around. Well, thank everyone for your contributions. I'm going to bump you off so I can begin manipulating this data, if you don't mind. All right. And so a lot of cool data here and a lot of numbers that you can see. And I've created a separate sheet that has a chart. And there is pulled data from that you provided and is making a graph. And so you there. Somebody has been to Disney a lot of times. You must live close. That's impressive. Just a quick way that you can visually display data. So you see the end product. Let me show you how I got there. You can do this as well. I'm going to go up to the Insert menu and go to Chart. And, the chart editor has been recently updated, and I tell you, it is awesome. I made charts in Microsoft Excel, and every time I do it, I become more and more confused. But the spreadsheet chart editor is wonderful. So the first thing I need to do is select my data, and do that by clicking Select Range, and then dragging across the range of cells that you want to use in your chart. So in case it's in this other spreadsheet, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to highlight all the numbers that I want to include. And actually, I want to include my header row as well. I got that, so I'll say OK. And then it'll ask you some things. So it's identified row 1 as a header, so that's very important because that's going to be my key for my different lines. And then I'll recommend some different graph styles. I've already done a bar graph, so let's try a line graph this time. And I preview, which you can see there, and then go into the charts and choose different variations as you wish. There's a lot of things you can choose from. Customize is nice. This is where you can add your labels, what the data series is, your X and Y axis, things like that. This is a great way when you're teaching students in science about data manipulation and collection. You want to make sure that when they collect data, they properly reference the data in terms of units and label their graphs so that they know what data means. You also go ahead and change the colors of the various lines, which is cool. If sometimes you might have favorite color as the data you're collecting, so you can change that. And then you say Insert, and I inserted that into the second sheet. So go back, and there you can see my set chart. So that's an insert chart. Really fun, and I think really easy to use. One thing I'd like to show you about is Widgets. Widgets are tiny little programs that run inside of Spreadsheets to manipulate and share your data in interesting ways. I've got a couple here. The one you see on the right with the trains is just an interesting, it basically is a graph that just takes the data from a previous page, and instead of using a line graph or a bar graph, it just puts them into a visually interesting this would be great for elementary students. Some cool things you can do with this. You can change the from trains. I think the worm is really cool. I'll show you the worm. So it's like you can have worms. So I mean, how great is that for elementary students? Really cool. The middle here is a word cloud. You may be familiar with Wordle, which takes a text and it sorts that text by number of times that a word is used. So the more times the word is used, the larger the word is. So evidently, the average weather across the world is cool because it's the largest letter. So this is neat, and this is a way that you can analyze qualitative data. And if I go back to my chart here, you know, all this, it'd be very difficult for you to look at that and figure out, you know, what type of letter is most common across the world. By using the word cloud widget, you can quickly see what it is based on, you know, based on the word. So it'll be cool. Last one over on the left, which we'll load up in a minute, is a Google map, which pulling the states and countries that you posted where you're from, and it's going to put a place marker on the places where across the world. This one takes a little bit more because it's aggregating a lot of data. There it goes. But you can see mostly centered in the U.S., but it looks like I saw we have someone from South Africa, which is cool, and someone from the Pacific Islands, which is fun as well. So examples of widgets. Let me show how I got there. I'm going to go to Insert once again, and then Gadgets. And for me, sometimes I use the term gadget and widgets interchangeably. They actually do the same thing, these small little programs. So Internet, and there's a whole bunch of them. I mean, you can browse here for a very, very long time. Gauges one is cool. Again, it shows your data instead of a typical graph. It shows it like a, you know, a fuel gauge. The motion chart gadget is very cool. This takes a little bit more work to set up, but basically it will show responses over time, and those bubbles will move around. It's really cool. You've got some simple ones. You've got some fairly complex ones. A bunch of things in between. So I'll let you explore that. And it basically works similar to the chart. You select your data that you want to include, and then it uses that into the widget. So that's charts and widgets. Real quick about functions. I am not a spreadsheet guru. So I will bow to other masters who could give you a lot more info. But just in other spreadsheet programs, you do have the ability to do some simple and very complex calculations. The one I typically use the most is just the sum. So I click at the bottom of my data here. So this is number times the Disney. Then I'm going to go up to Toolbar into Formula, Sum, click that, and then it's going to ask me to select the range of cells that I want to include in the sum. And you can do this just by clicking and dragging all the way down. I'm going to press Enter, and it's going to close up. So collectively, we have been to Disney 116 times. That's impressive. Show you time, highlight, or click where you want the sum to show up. Click Sum, press Enter. And you can do other things as well, averages, and much, much more complex things. My wife and I do our household budget exclusively on Google Spreadsheets, and we have got it down. We have formulas set up so that it calculates, you know, what percentage of our income we've spent each month on various things, and what percentage of our income over the course of the whole year we've spent. It's very, very helpful to determine, you know, what's going on. So I use it both personally and professionally in my teaching classroom. Spreadsheets is great for science classrooms, as Derrick mentioned several times, because a lot of times, you know, have each lab group collect data and collect that data together. And before Google Docs, I used to, you know, have every kid come up to my computer and tell me their numbers, and I would plug them into Excel. Now with just a few computers, you can have each lab group send up one person, plug that into sheets, and then you can share that data with all of your students so everybody has a clean copy of the data that they can use for their lab analysis, which is pretty cool. One thing that I got on my outline, but I just think it's so cool that it bears sharing. Here's how you click and drag across a row to fill it. So if I put a number 1 in this box here, this little square shows up. If I click that and drag it down, it will fill up squares with this number. So that'd be cool. You can auto-fill it, but it even gets better than that. If I go ahead and type in a few numbers, so 1 through 5, and that same box, but this time, instead of clicking and dragging down, I'm going to hold, and forgive me because I always forget, not that key. I'm on a Mac. I don't know, can you figure out what it is on a PC? I think it'd be Control on a PC. But if you hold down the key on a Mac and maybe Control on a PC, it will figure out the pattern in the data and then complete it for you. So notice that's pretty cool. But watch this. If you type in some states, colors. Oops. Okay, I've got 4 colors there, so I'm going to highlight them, hold the function key, down, and whoops, I held it. Works, sometimes it does. It depends on what data you're using. It's usually pretty easy. I've tried some crazy stuff like auto companies. So that with different things, and it has fun. I've used it with animals before. You type in like lion, cat, horse, dog, and then it'll try to fill in other animals. So it's kind of fun. I just find it amusing more than anything, but it can save you a little bit of time trying to come up with a long list of things in a similar category. Last thing I'd like to share with you is the template gallery, which is very powerful. As teachers, I know we are overstretched. We have more demands placed on us than we could ever accomplish. We're always looking for ways to save time. Never create a spreadsheet from scratch that you can borrow from someone else. Just in my Google Docs interface here, the home page where you see all my documents, and can type a search term into the box to search within your documents, or you can search public templates. I'm just going to go into the template gallery to show you what it looks like. There are thousands and maybe even hundreds of thousands of templates that other users have created that are way better than anything I could ever create. I mean, it's really, really cool. Let me just show you one. I'm picking random. Here's a family budget planner. They've already got all of the calculations set up. All you have to do is plug in your numbers, and it'll add it all up for you. So, I mean, that's really cool. I want to point out that there is a special section for teachers. At the bottom, it's the last category, section students and teachers. A couple of popular ones are the self-green quiz forms. If you are used to Scantron templates, well, the Scantron has met the 21st century. Actually, use templates, type in your quiz questions, student can take it, and it will automatically grade their responses and give their grade, and you have to do any calculations. So that's one example of some of the things that are in the template gallery. I want to make sure that we leave some time for questions, so I'll end it there. Let me throw up, I'll just throw up my resources real quick, but I'm going to share these out so you can refer to them in the couple of things. The Google Apps Training Center is very good. It has a lot of step-by-step instructions about what you would want to do, not just in Spreadsheets, but in all of the Google Apps products. Resources that I've shared, this one here, using Google Forms in a classroom, that's one of mine. It's a blog post that I wrote about how I do that in the class. Same thing with the mobile devices, how I use iPod touches to have students submit data in forms. They put in the keyboard shortcuts, which are always a popular one, and then there was a previous apps session in which one of the certified trainers went over how to use a self-grading for a quiz. So it actually links to a YouTube video that will guide you through that. So Dana's going to share all of these out, and you can use those, save those for reference as you wish. But before sharing with you, I will turn it over to Dana, and she will moderate some questions for us.
Yes, actually, could you keep your spreadsheet open, or could you go ahead and share that application again? Would you be able to show in your graph how you can copy graph, or not copy it, but save it as a file, and that way people can import to, say, a Google Docs?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I do, and there's a couple ways you can do it depending on what sources you have available. If on a Mac, you can very easily just do a screen capture, which times is the quickest. I have a program called Snagit, which is by TechSmith, which does the same thing. But yeah, if you just go to the drop menu from Chart, they save image, save it as a file, and then you can insert that into a spreadsheet or a document, PowerPoint presentation, Docs presentation, or to a website.
Can you go to your data sheet and select kind of a bunch of cells in a couple of different rows and columns, and then go to the web clipboard option?
Sure.
Just so you can copy that range. And I don't know if you could just open up a
Google
Doc and show how you can paste that in.
Web clipboard is a really neat feature. Most of you are familiar with copy and pasting, I'm guessing. But this enables you to copy and paste things in between Google applications. And not just one thing, but you can copy multiple things and then paste what you want. So I'll go ahead and just copy our data here. And then I'm going to go over to go back Docs and create a document. And so the same icon is here in Google Docs, and you notice that it shows what's copied. And so by just clicking that, it'll paste it in, and now I can manipulate it within Google Docs. I saw someone post out inserting document or a spreadsheet into documents. This is the best way that you could do that, because you can now manipulate that data, not only as in spreadsheets, but certainly can do functions.
Great. If anyone else has questions, please ask them into the Q&A box. So somebody was asking about mobile editing from iPad. I can do mobile editing with Google Docs and Google Spreadsheets, and it will sync your changes if somebody is working on their laptop and somebody is working on their iPad. It can run into some problems. It's not quite as real time as it is when you're using a laptop, but it does work on mobile devices. Any more questions, please ask them into the Q&A box. To follow up, I will be sharing this presentation, which outlines what John and Derrick walked through in this webinar, and as well as the Q&A transcript and the archive of this webinar, so you'll be able to access it in the future. It doesn't seem like there are any additional questions, so thank you so much, John and Derrick, for presenting at this webinar. And actually, it looks like we have a couple trickling in. They were asking about a pivot table, doing live Google search, which is you can use the Google lookup functionality. So the pivot table, John, have you ever used, I believe there's a pivot table gadget.
In the gadget that I used?
The gadgets, but if you could just go under the insert menu and see, show where you might pull up the pivot table. It should be somewhere in there. But I do know this is a functionality that lots of people are looking for. So the Panorama Analytics pivot table for Google Spreadsheets. So that's one option, but it's not native into Google Spreadsheets. But this is one workaround that you can try. The maximum number of sheets, we believe, I actually have to double check this, but I believe it is 99 sheets. But I know for sure that the main limitation is 400,000 cells in a spreadsheet. So you need to have 100,000 cells. And then somebody was asking about sorting multi-columns. So to that, John, if you go back into your data spreadsheet and maybe show how from the sort functionality you can add multiple
sure.
Multiple variables. Or
Derrick demoed the sort feature. So, okay, so let's say that I want to sort the column C alphabetically, but then I sort by something else. So you can add your additional sort features after that.
Yeah, so if you want to have kind of advanced sorting where it's sorted first by location and by name, you can be able to do those all together. We are unfortunately out of time now, but thank you for joining us for our Google Apps for Education Professional Development webinar. Next week's webinar will be at 4:30 Pacific Time, 7:30 Eastern Time, and it is using Google Apps for digital storytelling. And we will be posting an archive of this, as well as the Q&A transcript and the resources that John and Derrick shared for you later this week.